Hey, what's up? In this video, I want to talk about how to share money with your wife. And if you don't have a wife, it's super chill. I think you would still find this video helpful. When I was 22, I actually remember talking to my coworker who was probably 28 or 29, and he shared bank accounts with his wife, and I thought that was crazy. And I was like, I can't believe people do that. I would never do that. And over the years, I've actually come full circle. I'm 35 now, and now I'm going to tell you why I think sharing money with your wife is actually a good thing. So real quick disclaimer, I don't think there's a wrong way or a right way to do it. Well, I actually definitely think there's wrong ways to do it, but I don't think there's a right way to do it. Everyone is different. Everyone has different levels of comfortability. I'm not telling you this is the right way. I would just want to use this time to explain why I think it works. And yeah, I kind of want to go a little bit deeper and just go through my thought process on everything. So I think if you're keeping separate finances, there's a couple of things I consider, right? For me, I feel like if you keep separate finances, there's like a whole extra layer of stuff you have to worry about now, right? Because like our incentives different. So like let's say for example you're dating someone, right? And she's your girlfriend. Her incentives are a little bit different than when she's your wife, right? I feel like the girlfriend's like, oh, I want you to buy me an expensive ring. I want you to buy me this. Because it's not really her money. Once you're married, it's like your money. Like she should be saving with you. So you should have the same incentives, right? So is it that when you guys are married and you have different finances, are incentives a little bit different? For example, I have a friend that they keep finances separate and they go to dinner and then like sometimes one person will pay, sometimes the other person will pay. And I was like wondering, okay, let's say we go somewhere expensive and one person pays, and we go somewhere cheap and the other person pays. Like, is there some sort of imbalance going on? And then like, why even keep track of that? And then, so there's like basically a whole other thing to worry about. So that's kind of like where I feel like the downside is of keeping finances separate. And then I think the perceived downsides of sharing money is like, one, you get no privacy. It's like, okay, well, this person's all up in your business on what you're spending. And then obviously the worry is like, hey, your wife's gonna spend all your money, you have no control over it, whatever. So I think those are the two big perceived issues with sharing money, which I'll kind of address later on. But I think the benefits of sharing money, which I don't know if anyone talks about, is like, hey, now that you're married, you just have like, you're like one team now. You have one consistent goal. Hey, we want to save money. We're gonna grow together, and we're like on the same page. We want to work together as a team to achieve our goal, right? So I think that's the biggest benefit. Is like, hey, we're in it together. We're in it for life. We're gonna like hit these metrics. These are our goals. We're gonna achieve them together, and it's just really fun that way. Okay, so real quick, I think if you're not married, here's a big tip for unmarried people. I think it's super important. Is you want to marry someone that has similar values to you. Okay, so when it comes to money, you want to marry someone that's similar, and probably everything else as well, but especially money, someone that has similar values to you, right? Because what you think is normal is probably what you experienced growing up, right? And what's normal to you may not be normal to someone else, right? And they're not wrong, you're not wrong, but the more things that are not normal to each other, the more things you have to argue about. So for example, for me, like I don't like buying expensive things, right? I just don't like doing it. My parents didn't really buy expensive things growing up. I'm not really into name brands. Like whenever I see someone buy something expensive, I don't think that they're richer. I just think that they would be more rich if they didn't buy that thing, right? So like, for example, I would never buy like a $100,000 car, but if my wife really want a $100,000 car, then it would be like another thing that we have to talk about and be like, hey, this is why I don't think it's worth it. And she'll be like, this is why I think it's worth it. And neither of us are wrong. It's just that we would have something else to argue about, right? So like if you don't have someone that's within the same value set as yours, it's not gonna, I'm not saying it's not gonna work. It's just more things to argue about, and that will accumulate over time. All right, so how to share money with your wife. So a couple steps, right? Number one is you figure out all your monthly bills. So that's gonna be your mortgage, your phone bill, your cable bill, Netflix, water bill, gas bill. So you figure out what that number is, right? Number two, you also want to figure out things where you spend money on regularly. Let's say every quarter, every year, every semi-annually, but not every month, right? So for example, like a lot of car insurances like that, property tax, and then you want to agree on a budget of things that you want to spend money on. So like, okay, so we agree once a month we're only going to spend X dollars on food. We're going to spend X dollars on groceries. We're going to spend X dollars eating out. We're going to spend X dollars going out. We're going to spend X dollars on clothes, whatever that is, right? You agree to it ahead of time. And then the most important part is you figure out how much money each of you gets as an allowance. So outside of the base necessities, outside of the eating out, outside of all those monthly expenses you have together, you now figure out, hey, how much money can each of us get as an allowance? And it can be the same amount. It can be different. It's totally fine. Like for example, I don't need to spend. I never buy anything, right? So my allowance is less than my wife's. she likes to buy stuff, and it's totally fine. So she has a higher allowance, right? And then you also want to figure out, okay, once a year, how much money are we going to spend on the big things, right? Like vacation, or travel, or whatever your hobbies are. Like maybe those are big things that you're doing together that aren't included in your own personal allowance. All right. So figure those 5 things out, and then I'm going to walk us through how to do it. Okay. So before I talk about how we spend money as a group, let me just talk about if you were single, how you spend money, because this is important as well. I feel like a lot of people don't get this right. So I'm going to show you how to spend money as a single person. Okay. So you get a paycheck, right? Now, when you get your paycheck, it deposits into your account. But before it does that, you actually want to do something else. You want to deposit it into multiple accounts, okay? Number one is going to be retirement, 401k, whatever. It automatically goes to your retirement. It doesn't go to your regular bank account, all right? Number 2, it goes to your regular bank account. That's the money that you have in your bank. That's where you spend. That's the money you spend. And number 3, it goes to a separate account that's not part of your original bank account. It's a different bank. It's not the same. It's not checking savings. It's a different bank, which you don't look at. So some percentage of money goes there. We can talk about, how much money that should be in a different video. But this is how you should set up your paycheck to go into 3 different accounts, right? And then you also automatically set up some sort of withdraw dollar amount every month that goes into investments. All right. So that's how you set that up. Okay. So what I'm showing you is how you automate your savings, and then everything else you can spend. Okay, and after that, you can spend your money on bills, you spend your money on going out, you spend money on fun. Okay, so you have a set amount of money you spend. Let's call it bills and going out and food and whatever that's a set money. And you have an arbitrary amount of money that is for fun money. That's that's extra. And if you're really good that month, you can kind of take that fun money and put it back in your savings. All right, so that's how you would set up a personal spending account habit. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. All right, so let's talk about now if it's 2 people. All right. Oh, sorry. And then once in a while, you can take your savings and put them back into investments. Okay, so this is an example how you would set that up. But I just want you to understand this process that revolves around savings. Okay. All right. Next up, let's talk about team spending. It's a very similar concept. That's why I went on the first concept, the personal concept the first time. It's a very similar concept. So now you have 2 paychecks. You have paycheck A, you have paycheck B. Now, you funnel both paychecks into a sub savings account, a high yield sub savings account. Right now, interest rates are probably 4 point something%. And then you also have money go into investments, whether that's 401k, or if you can put in your IRA or whatever, do that as well. I didn't have, that it might go to a bank account before it gets to investment. For the sake of this image, just automate your investments, okay? Now, from this sub savings account, you want to give yourselves some money. So the person, let's say person A is the one that pays all the bills, they get the sum of all the bills plus the agreed upon allowance. All right. And then the other person, let's say they only get the allowance, they don't have to pay any bills, they just get the allowance. Right. And then now you can go out and spend this money however you want. But the agreed upon allowance and the bills, all that added together is only going to be a small percentage or a percentage of the income coming in. So you've already saved whatever dollar amount this is. I would try to go for something higher if you can. And the more aggressive you can get with it, the faster you can retire. And then now the person that gets his allowance, they can spend that money guilt-free. The person that gets allowance and bills, they pay the bills obviously, and they can spend that money guilt-free. So in this way, you don't know what they're spending on line by line. You know everything's getting paid for. You know things are getting saved, and yeah. So you have we're all saving and spending within the budget we agreed to, right? So you still get your privacy. You still get to do whatever you want. And if you don't spend all your allowance, you can save it for next month, and you have your own money, okay? And then what's happening on the side, the sub savings account is like, let's say we agreed on vacation, we agreed on, obviously we have to pay property tax or whatever. That gets bucketed in this account. And if you don't know what a sub savings account is, basically you have a savings account and you can bucket things. So if I have $10,000, I can put $1,000 into travel, I have $1,000 into, taxes or whatever. So then with that bucket, you're able to basically go, okay, we have this much savings and we have this much money that is set aside for taxes, for vacation, for whatever. Okay, and after that, that's pretty much it. So you pretty much able to save money. You have goals together. You're able to both access the sub savings account. And then once a month, what I would ask you to do is I would ask you to together as a team. You go over how much money you spent on everything. So did we hit our food budget? Were we over? Were we under? Were we over? Were we under? You can do this by downloading all your Excel, all your payments in Excel. I use Rocket Money now. It's actually pretty easy to use. There's a free version you can use. And then what you also want to do is you also want to take a snapshot of your current net worth. So what that looks like is you make a spreadsheet. On the x-axis you have all your different accounts. On the y-axis you have dates, and then you just fill that in. Once a month you fill that in, and then you sum it together and see where you're at. And then it's basically like just keeping track of where you're at, and you can see how you're improving. And that's how you save towards your future. And that's basically it. One other thing is, like, let's say for example, how does this person B spend money on food if that's responsible person A? You have a credit card that the person A is willing to pay is supposed to pay for. So you have a different credit card. You have like a user, and then you just like swipe that credit card when you buy food, right? So it's really easy to do. There's other logistics that are probably pretty easy. Ask me in the comments, but this is how you spend money or share money with your wife. Oh yeah, also if you're interested in personal finance or how to be better with your money, I made a couple of videos in the past I think are super helpful. Kind of covers this, but in more detail, and I'll link them below.